Hi friends, I'm Phil and I'm a poet just like you. I don't even know how to express how I feel about this video. This is the first, the premiere, the number one, the pilot, the kickoff episode of a series I am beyond excited about. Seriously, if this is excited, right here, if this is excited, then I'm somewhere over here. But I'm a little nervous too. Whenever we start something new, whether it's a YouTube series or a new poem or starting a new grade, there are some things that are probably going to be challenging. So if everything isn't perfect today, I'm just going to take a deep breath and remind myself that beginning is winning, and I'll continue to learn and grow and get better as we go. So, with all that said, I welcome you to the first episode ever of Poet Show It. I'm a poet. You're 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 a poet. So come and show it. You're a poet. Poet Show It is a new video series made to celebrate the poems that you write. And you, and you, and you in the back there. Personally, I believe that we are all poets. We all have awesome ideas and ways to express ourselves with words, whether that's on a piece of paper, written on the computer, written on the side of a box, on a page in a notebook, on the sidewalk using chalk, sung in a song, by moving around little plastic letters, or spoken out loud. There are a million different ways to write a poem, and even better, there are millions of poets out there with awesome ideas of how to do it. So, we're going to read awesome poems by awesome poets, talk about some of the things we love about them, and then I hope you'll go and write some poems of your own. If you do, and you want to share them with me and maybe the whole world, then you and your parents can go to poetshowit.com and send them to me. So, let's get started. We have poems from 3 incredible poets today, all from Lake Orion Community Schools in Lake Orion, Michigan. The students there were awesome enough to share a bunch of amazing poems with me so that we could get this series started off right. The first poem, Pencils, by Miyu. Miyu is in Mrs. Burntt's class at Weber Elementary. I love this poem, and it seemed like a great way to kick off the episode and the whole series. Like I said before, there are a million ways to write a poem, and one of the best tools that we have to do so is the pencil. They're light and easy to carry and have a super handy eraser. But let's see what Miyu has to say about them. Pencils. Pencils, pencils, pencils. Pencils are super useful. You can use them for drawing. They don't care if they're used up. You can just make them pointy again. First, I love how this poem opens. Pencils, pencils, pencils. This poem is an ode. An ode is like a poem that focuses on a particular subject and normally praises that subject and talks it up. Talks about how awesome it is. And obviously, Miyu loves pencils. Miyu makes sure we know exactly what the poem is talking about right off the bat. And it makes sense in an ode to the pencil, this incredible tool. I've got a few myself. Just a couple. Just a few. It makes sense that in an ode to the pencil, that she would have so many exclamation points throughout the whole poem. Pencils, pencils, pencils. Pencils are super useful, exclamation point. You can use them for drawing, exclamation point. They don't care if they're used up, exclamation point. She's super excited about pencils. I also love pencils. I also love the line, you can use them for drawing, because I'm a poet and I'm reading a poem that was written with a pencil, and the first description of a pencil I expect to be about writing. You can use them for writing. That's probably what I would say if you asked me what a pencil was for. But Miyu's like, no, you can use them for drawing. And I was not expecting it, and I thought it was a really cool line and very true. Then the final couplet of the poem is probably my favorite part. They don't care if they are used up. You can just make them pointy again. First, this is a fantastic observation of something that's really special about the pencil. If a pen runs out of ink or a marker runs out of ink, you're going to have to get a new marker or a cartridge and refill it. But a pencil, put that bad boy in the sharpener, especially one of those awesome pencil sharpeners they have in schools on the wall, and grind it up, and you've got a pointy pencil ready to go. Secondly, it's also a really cool line because it reminds me of something else. Sometimes, as a poet, as a creative person, I feel kind of used up, kind of dull. When I've been making a lot of stuff, after a while I get tired. And it's nice to think about a pencil and how a pencil can get dull. And then by putting it in the sharpener, you can make it pointy again, because it reminds me that if I start to feel dull or tired, I can go eat a good meal or just take a break or go take a nap or go to bed if it's late. And then I can wake up and I know I'll be pointy again. It's a good reminder that just because we don't feel awesome right now when we're making stuff doesn't mean we're not going to feel awesome in an hour from now or tomorrow. Because just like a pencil, we can get pointy again too. Oh, also, it's got this amazing art. Let me flip over to the art really quick. It's so cool. I love that it's a letter, and you know that it's a letter with the dear and the from, but you don't know anything else. Like, the whole letter is a total secret. I think it's so good. And by the way, the pencil is excellent. That is a fantastic pencil. It actually looks a lot like my other pencil right up there on the wall. I absolutely love the poem Pencils by Miyu, and thank you so much for sharing it with us. Poem number 2. In the last poem, we talked about the incredible pencil, one of the finest tools in the poet's toolbox. A pencil can write or draw just about anything, so really the only limit is your imagination. The second poem is Imagination by Nicholas. Nicholas is in Mrs. Nye's class at Stadium Drive Elementary. So you can imagine anything, right? Just about. The only limitations that we have on our imagination are self-imposed, things that we do to ourselves. And I think that they really can fall into 2 categories. One is a dismissive or negative mindset that makes us think that things aren't possible, that we don't want any crazy ideas. The other one is learning or not learning, right? We can only imagine things based on what we know. So by learning, every time we learn something new, we expand our understanding of the world, and we expand even more what we can imagine to be possible. So those are some thoughts I have about imagination, but let's see what Nicholas has to say. Imagination. What can we do with imagination? It's a mystery, but is it? You can do just about anything. You can turn a room into a rainforest. You can make it into a desert. You can make it into something good or bad. So, as you can see, you can make imagination into anything. Right off the bat, the poem starts out super strong by asking a question of the reader. What can we do with imagination? And it's a huge question, right? So immediately the reader's like, well, wow, a lot of things. I don't even know where to start. So they're engaged in the poem because they're like, well, are you going to tell me what you can do with imagination? So it was a really good opening, strong opening. The next line is amazing. I literally laughed out loud. It's a mystery, but is it? I mean, what could be more mysterious than a mystery that isn't even sure if it's a mystery? Or is it? I thought it was so funny. Really, really great line. And another example that as we consider what imagination can be, that sometimes it's even hard to wrap our brains around it. Then Nicholas gives some really good examples of the way your imagination can work. You can do just about anything. You can turn a room into a rainforest. You can make it into a desert. These are things that are very different, and so he's painting a picture of the breadth of imagination. You can make it into something good or bad. I like this because it reminds us that we're responsible for our imagination. We have the power to think up things that can help us and help others, or we have the power to do things that could hurt us or hurt other people. So that responsibility is on us. The other thing I really love about this poem is this phrase he uses where he says, you can make it into anything. You can make imagination into anything. You can make it into something good or bad. You can make it into a desert. I love the idea that he's painting that you can make your imagination into things, because I think of imagination almost like daydreaming, right? Like, oh, whatever you can think up. But the reality is the power comes from when you take something that you can make up and you make it real. You take wild ideas or fun ideas or things that get you excited and you make them real. So whether you make them into a rainforest or a desert, like Nicholas is suggesting, or you make them into a poem or a book or a fun way or interesting way to help people, your imagination can be made into things. That's the basis for all of poetry, all of art, and really for lots of things in our life. So I think Imagination is a fantastic poem. I think it makes a ton of great points. Nicholas, thank you so much for sharing. Poem number 3. So we talked about imagination only being limited by what we know, what we've learned, how weird and creative we're willing to be. Well, I think the last poem we have up is a great example of imagination run wild. This is literally one of the silliest, funniest, most creative poems I've seen, and you wouldn't expect it from the title. Roses Are Red by Bboy. Bboy's in Mrs. Peluso's class at Orion Oaks. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned a bunch of different ways to make poems. Writing them in a notebook, writing them on the side of a box, singing them. And I thought I'd come up with quite a few creative ways, but I definitely didn't think of everything. But I don't want to give it away, so let's read the poem. Roses are red. Roses are red. Violets are blue. I have a friend named Ned. He is made out of glue. So, Roses Are Red is easily the most common response poem ever. Everybody knows it. Everybody's done a version of it. I think I got 5 different versions submitted from the students at Lake Orion over the last week. Many of them were super creative and fun, but this one stood out, I think, for obvious reasons. The fact that this poem creates the weirdest, silliest character I've ever seen and then presents him to you immediately. It's just so straightforward and silly, and I absolutely love it. Plus, I've got to say, this is really good artwork with glue. I mean, the eyes are the exact same size. He's got, Ned looks pretty awesome. I want to be friends with Ned too. And the other thing, this poem reminds us all to be silly and creative, that the things we make don't have to look like the things other people make. And more often than not, those are the things that really stand out and people find special. So, thank you, Bboy, for sharing, and for sharing with all of us. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and watching the first episode ever of Poet Show It. We got to celebrate the pencil, unleash our imagination, and even made a friend out of glue. So I'd say that's a pretty successful first day. I hope you'll find some time to write your own poems, whether they're silly or serious, if you write them in pencil or make them out of glue. And if you do and you'd like to share them with me, ask for your parents' help to go to poetshowit.com to submit. From the Poetry Workshop, I'm Phil. I'll see you next time, and until then, keep writing.